Hello, I'm Melissa McMahon with Care Paravel Academy, and it's been a while. So long, in fact, that I think my last video was with my first graduate, and now it's time to have my second graduate. So this is Amelia, and she's about to graduate after 12 years of Ambleside Online education, plus some other things a little thrown in there, which we'll talk about. And this is her exit interview. So a lot of you have expressed a lot of interest in what a 12-year Ambleside education looks like and what they end up doing and how they end up being. And again, we are just one family and two members of that one family, so your experience will be different, but perhaps this will give you some insight and some encouragement if you are choosing to do something like that with your children. So, Amelia, welcome. It's been fun, hasn't it?
Yes, it's been a fun ride.
Okay, and we might talk about some parts that haven't been so fun either, because I
Yeah.
do want to be truthful about
it's not
it.
all fun and games.
It's not, but let's get to the fun stuff first, and then we'll get to it. I'll start with the same question that I started with your sister Elizabeth. And please, if you haven't watched that, watch that video too. It's on the channel, and it's longer than this one is going to be because I had more stuff to cover. And you'll just get two totally different perspectives because they are very, very different people. And if you know Charlotte's first principle that children are born persons, and if you have more than one child, you see that very, very easily, that these children can come from the same parents, live in the same house, and be completely different. So I hope you will see that in our conversation today too. So it might be useful to watch Elizabeth's interview as well. So, starting with the same question that I asked Elizabeth in the Teaching from Rest book by Sarah McKenzie that I like to read every year just to kind of get reset on what this homeschooling thing is, she supposes the question of, let's say that your child is at a party 10 years after graduating and somebody says, you were homeschooled. Tell me, what was that like? What would your answer be?
In all honesty, it's been really good. I think especially as I've gotten older and I've been able to dual enroll and just really pull from all aspects of the education. Talking with some of my public school friends as well, there's a lot that I've done and I've just taken for granted that comes with Charlotte Mason, some of the books I've read that some of my public school friends just haven't, and that's sad. I feel bad for them because they're missing out.
And they haven't had time to, and I
Yes,
think
and I
you
feel bad for
especially have appreciated that you can be so flexible,
Yes,
especially
I like being flexible.
in the upper years, and
Yes.
customize your
Yes, I've been able to
education.
pursue things I want to pursue. I was able to do ballet at a more pre-professional level than I would have been able to do if I'd been in public school, which I'm really thankful for. So yeah, overall it's been good, I'd say. There's not many cons.
Do you think you would homeschool your kids?
Well, I don't see kids happening necessarily anytime soon.
No.
So, in all honesty, I don't like little kids all that much, so I'd probably send them.
My kids are
public
totally
school.
different, okay?
Yeah. In all
And that-
honesty, it's nothing against homeschooling. I just don't know if I'm up for that.
Personally,
Personally, yes.
but you see it as a good
Yeah,
thing
so my older
overall.
sister, I think, mentioned that yes.
Yeah, and our philosophy all the way along has been take it year by year and child by child. And I really have been open to other forms of education, whatever they would be. But so far, with 2 almost graduates and then 3 coming behind, it's worked for them individually and as a family. So in part, that's because Ambleside's upper years are just so flexible. And, you know, when you're starting off in the early years, I don't know that you really appreciate that so much. And I am a kind of a stickler for sticking to AO as written in the early years because it just builds such a nice foundation. But the upper years gives so much flexibility that you're able to do more things. Like you mentioned, pursuing your arts in ballet. And then these last 2 years, you've been doing dual enrollment.
Yes.
So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So I've been dual enrolling for 2 years now, and it's through our local community college. They have a workforce development scholarship, which basically lets high school students pursue a short-term certificate in a tech field for completely free. So the one I'm doing is in cybersecurity. My older sister did one for EMT training, which isn't so much my thing as cybersecurity. But I've been toying with the idea of going into computer science, something as a career. But once I saw this pop up, I just thought, why not? It won't hurt. I guess that was the main point. But it's been really really great. I actually love what I'm doing. I'm feeling confident about what I'm going into at college and more prepared overall. I've also been able to take calculus as part of that scholarship, which again, I think has prepared me for college really well. So
Yeah, and our philosophy has always been, as far as college or higher education, that we want to be able to send them to college if that's what their career goals lean toward. But if they just need like a certification program or something, we would like to pursue that. Or if they want to start their own business, we want to help them with that. So we don't see college as necessary for continuing their education. But in these first two circumstances with our first two kids, it has been for the fields that they've chosen. So this was a great program. So we're in Alabama. You might be somewhere else, and I know you are. But look and see what your local schools offer for that, because this has been fabulous for them. And I'll just say too, as far as getting into computers, I know that Ambleside is sometimes criticized for being STEM light. It's not at all. And I have always said that it's the younger years that really teach the methods of observation for nature study, and the narration, and learning to think critically through things. All of that is building the foundation for science, and I think you have proven that. And we didn't use computers growing up. I mean, she's going into cybersecurity engineering now, which is no small feat to get into College of Engineering. And she's well prepared for it, in part because of these certification classes, but she was prepared for that because of Ambleside things that might not have looked techie at the time, but I really think laid the groundwork.
yeah, I didn't really start any classes with computers until I think 10th grade.
Yeah.
But once I got into them, it was a lot like Ambleside again. It's just observation, intuition, deducting. The same concepts, just different field.
Yes, and I mean, we just didn't use, people are, really pushing early computer use for kids. And like she said, I think 10th grade was the first time you got on the computer for anything more than doing the Cetera map quiz. That was our big thing, was getting on for Cetera. They had paper white Kindles that they would use for ebooks and audiobooks, but we really didn't push the tech. And I mean, my husband's in tech, so it's not like we're anti-tech or anything, but just didn't feel that need for the younger kids.
Yes.
So I mentioned you're going to cybersecurity engineering. Do you want
Yes.
to tell a little bit more about your plans after graduation?
Yes. So after graduating, I will be going to Mississippi State University. They've got a really good engineering program there. Their cybersecurity program is actually new as of last summer, I believe. So I'll be in almost the inaugural class, which is exciting in and of itself. But I'm super excited to be there. They've got one of the world's fastest supercomputers. I think it's in the top 100 in the world, which a geek like me gets really excited about. But I'm just really excited. I love the school and the campus. And I know lots of people going there, and everyone who's been there say that they love it. So It's been the main focus. I haven't really applied many other places, to be honest.
No, it just really clicked, and they're very generous with scholarships. Yes. So one of the things I want to talk to you about too is ACT, because we also didn't do any kind of standardized tests until ACT came along, and we did do some prep classes for that. And because she made a nice score on the ACT, it really opened up a lot of doors for universities and for scholarships through the universities. So I hate teaching to the test, but I think that is a good investment for high schoolers, just to go ahead and bite the bullet and
it pays off for the rest of the year.
It really, really does, because a lot of these schools, especially the state schools, and especially for homeschoolers, if they don't know how to judge a homeschool A, but they know how to judge performance on a standardized test. So I think that was really, really helpful. And I'll just go ahead and say she's gotten scholarships to cover everything.
They're paying me to go, so
she's gone a little bit over now. So we're very, very thankful for that. But that was mostly because of her ACT and other things she's done too. So I do see the benefit in that. Now, if she hadn't been so academically motivated and she had taken on these workforce development certification classes, I think that would have set you up really well.
Yeah, I've seen some of the
to
things you
do-
can do with just those certifications.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So that was, in the back of our mind too, if you wanted to work with computers, that's a great field to be getting into. And oftentimes then those companies will pay for your college after that.
So it's definitely something I've thought of as well.
Right.
But
To
I
help
think
with that.
overall, getting that undergrad means a lot. And I'm hoping to do an accelerated master's as well. They offer that. So that means I can finish my undergrad and master's in 5 years, which is really nice.
Plus co-op.
True. So I won't
So
be
it's
out of
gonna add a
college
little
until
bit.
like 6 years, but I will have a master's and hopefully a job waiting for me. So overall, I think long term, it's the best option I have right now.
Yes. So I do think some of that is we can apply to having had some ACT
Yes.
class prep, but don't you think some of that can be attributed to Ambleside?
Yes. How do I say this? I did the best on the reading test, but I also did best on the science test because I realized it's basically a reading test with some charts and graphs and numbers thrown in. So I will say I think Ambleside really helped me, especially narrations too, having to remember bits from the books you've read, having to go back and remember those and write it down somewhere or find connections between them. I'd really say that helps. And English too, if you're reading good books, if you're just familiarized with that correct grammar and just writing overall, I think that it makes the English test a lot easier.
Yes.
And then math, you just have to work at. So,
Right.
yeah.
Just as part of that.
Yeah.
And then one of the sometimes people are concerned that Ambleside doesn't have enough grammar, that we don't start young enough. You'll see a lot of programs that are really drilling that grammar really, really young. And I decided to try it the Ambleside way, and so we just did not do any grammar except we read Grammarland like in year 4, year 5 or so. And then we did 1 year of grammar in middle school, and then test prep
Yeah.
early
Pretty
high school
much.
years, and that's all the grammar that they need. 1
didn't
year middle
realize that.
school and a little ACT test prep,
Yeah. Wow.
and you had a perfect score
I did.
ACT. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's not going to be the same for all students, but just to set your heart at ease as far as, my kid's not getting enough grammar, because you're seeing maybe other kids just really, really drilling all this stuff. And I really don't think that's necessary. And if you've got another language in there, they're learning what the parts of speech are, and that's gonna follow through. So as far as, I'm saying, yes, spend some time and money into test prep, but part of that test prep was
The early years of
the early years of Ambleside. So it's not that it doesn't apply, it's just that you have to play the game a little bit and focus on some of that.
And it does build over time as well. You're
Yes.
able to make deeper connections than you would have in just that first 2 years or so.
Yes, and even though she's going into a STEM field, she really loves the humanities, don't
I
you?
do.
Can you talk a little bit about all the arts and history and
Yes.
English and
Yeah. Just
all those
everything.
lovely things that people think are not STEM or not important in this technologically driven world, but you as a technologically driven person
Yes.
feel they're important?
I mean, as most of you have probably heard by now, I do ballet. I danced semi-professionally back a few years ago before COVID hit, and that's just been a big part of my life personally. I also love watching people sing. I can't sing myself, but I have tried to learn as much as I can about it, and just it blows my mind just how much goes into just a single note or single breath. It's just the little things, I guess. I've also enjoyed, of course, theater. My sisters do a lot of theater, so just culturing that appreciation there, and any kind of art.
What about
really.
the history and what we've been reading for history and worldview, and
Yeah,
anything you can apply there?
there's a definite art to history as well, I would say. Especially if you read long enough periods of time, you'll see the same things kind of repeat themselves. Which, what does that tell you about what's going to happen if you can recognize those signs early on? So it's always interesting in and of itself. It's kind of a cycle that just keeps going. It's maybe not the same length, but it will eventually come around.
Look at you making connections.
That's what I do.
And Amelia's my current events girl.
Yeah.
We can talk a long time about current events and politics and make those kind of connections.
We're both petty and stuff, like
We
deep
can be a little bit.
inside. So
No, we haven't. I have enjoyed that aspect of having older kids to be able to talk through some big issues with them, having some of the philosophy underpinnings, to know what's bubbling up.
Yeah.
That this is not a new thing. That these ideas have been around and been disproven sometimes, or proven correctly. So
that is one thing that it was a bit harder to get up to date with current events. I would say, especially, I don't think I really got into more current events until 10th grade. Again, I think that was just a big turning point overall.
Yeah.
But the New York Times daily briefing has been really nice to just wake up in the morning and just have some news going there. You can play the Wordle if you want to. You can do a spelling bee. You can do all kinds of fun stuff there to just kickstart your day.
that has been a nice free resource. And I have always been of the philosophy that whatever your political affiliation is, it's important that you listen to the other side. And I just feel like it's important, and to train our kids in that too. So they are getting a biblical foundation, and so we don't really bring in the current events until they do have that foundation that they can test some of these opinions against the Word of God. And I think 9th, 10th grade is a great time to start doing that, which, is when Ambleside suggests you start looking at current events and keeping a notebook of that and having discussions. So that's been really fun as a family to be able to have discussions. Of course, COVID hit in your 10th grade year.
Yeah, and it's kind of
it's
slapped
been a
in the
little
face
weird.
with current events when you're living through one, so.
Right. It gives some immediacy to what's going on.
Yeah.
One of the other important aspects of Ambleside that this girl has especially clung into is globalism. And I know a lot of times that Ambleside can be criticized for having a very Western Civ picture of things, and that is true, especially in the younger years, but it gets far more global in the older years, and you do see some of these darker bits to some of the heroes, but at an age-appropriate time. So that, I think you've really eaten up, not the darker bits, but as far as having a global look at things, and you've been very interested in travel, and I fully
love
expect
traveling.
that her single years,
I'm just all over the place.
Yes,
No
we're
one's
just
gonna know
gonna
where
we're
I
just
am.
gonna get a text from you every now and then telling us where you
I'll
are.
invite you.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
you. Can go to
you.
London with me.
That would be awesome. I'll go anywhere with you.
Let me get a job.
So
first.
yes, and we did take our field trip to London, which was fabulous.
That's technically my senior trip, so.
Well, in 10th grade.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
10th grade
went
was
October
great.
2019, and it was a fabulous trip. Not just for the content of
I
it.
feel like that's where, I don't know, we got more comfortable.
We
She wasn't a
bonded.
mop so much as another friend.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it was really, really good timing, and enjoyed it very much. So I took my two oldest for that, and then I just came back a couple months ago with my next two, and that was great too. So tell us about how that trip informed you or other global aspects to Ambleside.
Well, it really helped me realize just, how do I explain, how young America is. We don't have these ancient ruins. We don't have old abbeys with the crazy architecture and stuff, which I really appreciated going to London. And I especially appreciated all the different cultures that you can get. You really get people all over the globe, just as tourists and also as people who live there, honestly. It was just really, it was a nice change from the Alabama normalness I've grown up in. But yeah, just seeing all of that come together and just standing where kings walked, that's just, people are just casually walking over it, and it was just crazy to think that someone would just disregard that.
To be part of that
Yeah,
flow of
it's just
history.
daily life, which I totally get.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So in that too, kind of inspired her as she was looking at colleges to look at places that have study abroad programs, and that she could continue
Yes.
some of those things that are important. So what do you think your education will look like after your formal education is done, college, master's, whatever?
Well, I am going into a field that is kind of constantly evolving. You're going to have to always be learning new things, which is one of the reasons why I'm really excited to go into it. The learning curve never really stops. It just flattens out a little bit after all that crazy college stuff. But yeah, I'd say it'll just be learning different things to help the projects I'm working on, or just specializing, getting more localized in various fields, figuring out what I'm really good at, what I really like doing, and being able to be that person. So overall, I'm excited. Get to learn more. So,
are there any books on your to-read list?
Yes, there's a lot that I'm trying to recall now, because there's so many.
Well, to be honest, getting this last push through, there are lots of things that have been put to the side for all of us. I will say, you may remember when your first child was born, and then that whole year, and then he or she had that first birthday, and that was, big deal. And then second child, sorry.
Yay.
And you're like, what? It's the first birthday already.
Yep.
And it's still a very big deal. It's just so much faster. And I think everybody can appreciate that. And with this graduation, they're 13 months apart, and sending one off to college and then jumping right into a second senior year.
It's crept up on all of us.
It really has. So that's my apology for not doing any videos in this last year, because I've had a piece of me at this school and then a piece of me getting ready to launch her off, and then 3 others at home. So it's been a strange kind of haphazard year in that. So we're just kind of realizing, yes, you're graduating very, very soon.
Yes.
So I'm having her work on her speech. We're going to have a graduation ceremony. And do you want to tell anything about your speech? Or
I'm still trying to piece it together and just really solidifying what I want it to be about. So in all honesty, I haven't made much verbal progress as far as length, but I have several ideas I'm trying to figure out how to incorporate into that. So I'm still working on the main structure. I think once I get writing, it'll come a lot faster, but I really hope. But for now, it's just coming up with the ideas and the structure the way I want it to go. So,
which is practice from narration, right?
Yes.
But you did mention a few books that really stood out to you through your Ambleside experience.
Yes.
So what are some of those?
I would say the book that has been the most profound and the one that's just stood out, I've read like hundreds of books at this point, but the one book I always want to come back to is Character's Destiny. It's not the John McCain book. It is by Russell Goff. And it just really helped me. I think I read it in 9th or 10th grade, which
it's
really
scheduled
helps settle down
9 or 10, I think.
Yeah, and it helps settle down some of the turbulence that can come with like 8th to 9th grade, middle school. And it just really helped me feel comfortable in myself, and it helped me feel better in my faith. And overall, I would recommend it to anyone.
It was a new one to me, so thank you, Ambleside
Thinking of
Advisory.
including it in my graduation speech.
Yeah.
So stay tuned.
Favorite Ambleside year?
Well, the thing about that, there's good and bad books in every year. Let's see.
What did the bad books teach you?
The bad books taught me that some authors are just not engaging. I don't know what's the best way. There's some topics that I think given the right author, it can make it super, super exciting. Some of these people are just spitting out facts on paper, and it just got really long.
But you did it.
I did do it. I got through it.
Persevered.
I did. I'm so proud of myself. But
and that helped you in your computer classes.
It did, honestly. Yes. I think one book I really enjoyed, I think it was year 8, was Kon-Tiki.
Yeah.
Remember, I don't think I really liked that year as a whole, but that book I think was the light in that year, at the end of the tunnel of that year.
Well, and that's, I don't know if this is by design or not, but each of you in your years, you've all liked different books.
We have, yeah.
But there's always been one that you did really like, even if there were several that you didn't love.
Yeah, so year 8, I think it was Kon-Tiki.
That was just a good book.
It was just very entertaining, reading about a bunch of Scandinavian guys who want to build a raft and cross the Pacific. It was just entertaining the whole way through. But my older sister didn't like it, which was just so unheard of to me. I couldn't imagine that.
Favorite lit selection?
I have to go with The Count of Monte Cristo.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's one of the most underrated classical books. It's got like angst, it's got fights, it's got like some psychological mystery type stuff in it. It's got a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't read like one of those old stuffy classics I think a lot of people attribute to that specific genre. Anyway, I don't want to spoil anything because I know some people still don't read it, but I really enjoyed it.
Well, she enjoyed it enough that she said that she wants to name her son Edmund.
That's not entirely. It's also Narnia and stuff.
Well,
but
too.
Yeah,
I know,
it's
but
a good name.
I just have hope that you would like to eventually have a child.
True. Yeah, we'll see.
I know.
Um,
Or you can just travel with me all the time.
yeah, I can get the dogs.
There are advantages.
For babies, yeah.
Yes. It'll be good. Least favorite Ambleside year?
Ooh.
I mean, you said that there were good in
Yeah.
every year, so.
And I know I said I loved Kon-Tiki in year 8, but everything else was just kind of bland,
it can
like
be a bit
slower.
of a slog.
I think it was Westward Ho. I think it was that year. And
Yeah.
It was just long.
Your little
That's-
sister's still working through that one.
Yes, and I think that's why I enjoyed Kon-Tiki so much, because it was that light at the end of the tunnel. I'd save it until the end. I do this with lots of school books. I'll save what I really want to do until the end so I can get through all the other stuff to get there. That's just kind of my own personal reward system, so to speak. So, yeah, probably year 8. I'm sorry.
Well, how would you encourage other Ambleside students who might be like middle school age right now and might not be loving what they're doing?
Well, keep in mind, every year is different. You're different, the books you're reading are different, and I wouldn't, again, don't judge a book by its cover, like literally in the sense, but I would say just give it another try. Maybe look at the book you're reading that might be kind of boring. Look at it from a different angle. I think it was The Betrothed. I think it was year 9. If you look at it from a serious angle, it's not that good, but if you look at it as a comedy, it's hilarious. It's so funny. I laughed my head off reading it. I couldn't take anything the author wrote seriously, and it was just a comedy. Same with The Vicar of Wakefield.
Oh yeah.
You have to read these with a different angle than you might originally assume. So I
and like
really
all
enjoyed
Jane
doing
Austen,
that.
I mean, you have to.
They're
read
all
it
rom-coms.
Listening for
It's all
comedy.
rom-coms, which
in
I don't
there.
really like, but in that sense, they're well done.
Yeah.
But
What advice or encouragement might you give to Ambleside moms if they have kids who aren't loving it?
I mean, I can definitely say I, at some point, was that kid who was not loving it, and I'm sorry. But I would say just listen to them, figure out what they don't like about it. Maybe it's, again, the books they're reading, or maybe it's the way they're having to read them. If it's just big chunks of stuff at a time with no break, that can be really mentally exhausting. I just try to figure out what they don't like about that, and then just go from there, I would say, because a lot of people just say, well, like it. But that's hard to do. You can't just like something on demand. You're going to have to change something about the method you're going at it, or you, I guess.
And sometimes you're not going to like
Yes,
the
yeah, you're not going to
material,
like every book you read,
but-
believe me, but
but it can be useful
yes.
later.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you need another book I enjoyed?
Sure.
I can keep talking. One,
Yeah, I had a question and it's gone, but
I
you
can
edit
talk to-
videos, so
I do edit videos, so I can. That's been my guilty pleasure I've gotten into the senior year. So, video editing, it's been,
do you want to talk about that?
I guess,
Go ahead.
it's kind of my guilty pleasure. So, I have a YouTube channel where I edit.
She has a
anime
lot more
music
subscribers
videos.
than I do.
I do. I'm close to 1,000 now, but I edit anime music videos. It's been something I've gotten into this senior year. The pandemic especially led to that. And that's another thing I will say that I think Ambleside's helped me out a lot with. And video editing in and of itself, that creative media form has helped me in coding, to be honest. It's kind of the same thing. You have effects that do certain things, but it's the way, the values you set for those effects and the ways you combine them that really makes the whole like transition or whatever. So I always like to make an analogy with coding in that. But yeah, it's something.
Well, and she just taught herself how to do it, which
did.
again, I think, homeschool kid just learns how to do what
I will
she
say, when
wants
I was
to do.
younger, I've always, like, even reading books and stuff, I'd imagine music videos with those characters to, like, my favorite song at the moment. So it's kind of the same thing.
And I think your dance helped you there because you're kind of
The
choreographing.
It is.
these
You're
things,
choreographing
so-
something and just telling a whole new story, which I've really enjoyed.
She's really good. I mean,
I like to think I am, but
I didn't
it's
even
nice to...
know she was really doing this until she had several done, and
Yeah.
they were really good. So
you.
maybe I'll link them. You can see what it is. A few of them are a little
it's not the
PG.
most it's not the most like conventional, but I'm really just trying to tell different stories there. So if I'm trying to do a more horror type story for Halloween, then
that's the thing. You are telling stories, and
that's
that's
what I love
a
about
creative
it too.
outlet.
And I'm learning more too. The learning curve for this has gone exponentially up since my first video. Don't watch it. Don't watch it.
See it for details.
But yes, not many homeschoolers can say they've done that. But
maybe lots more will.
Yeah, that is my guilty pleasure. When I'm done with schoolwork, I can go edit. So
in just in the last year and a half, really, you've done that. Another thing she has done this year, which has been an amazing experience, is she participated in our local Distinguished Young Woman program.
Yes.
And that's a scholarship program only for senior high school girls. It's not a pageant, it's a scholarship program. But there's an interview component and an academics, talent, fitness, and self-expression on stage. So because of that, she was given a lot of experience with interviews, and it just really...
I feel more prepared for this one.
Yeah, so. It's all leading up to this, babe.
Yes.
All leading up to this.
Yes.
So it's been really, really good for her. So she won her local, and then at state, she was one of the finalists, which we were super excited about.
I was pleasantly surprised.
Yes, and did really well and won some more scholarship for that.
Won a Scholastics Award. So if
a Scholastics Award
hope,
with an Ambleside
then,
transcript, I just want to say it can be done. So
yes.
So yes, we were very excited that you had that opportunity.
Yes.
And her sister participated in the local program too, and there were lots of benefits in participating, even if it doesn't go any further than that.
Yes. Just the experience alone is helping me.
Yes.
And job interviews and
I did it
and just everything.
40 years ago, and I'm still reaping the benefits of that, I think. So anyway, it's a great program if you can get involved locally, and it is open to homeschool students. So I think that anything else you wanted to say about the experience there?
You get to meet a lot of people with probably like similar interests and things. And again, it's just nice to get that diversity in there, because especially in homeschooling, you kind of have your own bubble, which isn't bad in and of itself, but it's nice to branch out a bit, meet some different people, which Distinguished Young Women really helped me with. And I've made some really good friends that I hope to stay in touch with as best I can. I've met some other people going to Mississippi State, so we'll see if we can reconnect on campus. But
talk a little bit about the social aspects of homeschooling, because that can be a struggle. You had dance, and then we had a co-op where we did math and science and Spanish for a few years, but there wasn't a whole lot of social going on there. So what did we do well? What could have we improved? What would you suggest for your sisters?
I mean, I think we were fairly social overall, or as social as we could be in that regard.
And again, the last 2 years really have been affected by COVID stuff.
And
so
I'll just
it hasn't been
be
real.
Completely honest here. I'm not the most sociable person.
You are.
It depends. I'm a small group kind of person. And it's just hard to find that without going into a big group first, which I don't like doing. So that's been hard for me personally.
But doing the co-ops, you have found your tribe and your closer friends.
Yes. And the co-op, again, I know people who I did like STEM classes with, and now we're going to the same college. Yeah. And she's rooming with one of my friends. There's one girl, so that's super exciting in and of itself to see friends from different areas connect. So yeah, that's not to say it's not without its difficulties, I guess. You have to make more of an effort.
You do. You have to look for those opportunities and open your home. You know, be the one to invite people, because when you're in a school, public or private, that's just kind of built in, and we have to create those things for some time. Yeah. Okay. Well, anything else you'd like to add that we hadn't? We haven't prepared this at all. I wanted it to be super fresh.
It was stressing me out.
Sorry.
I like to know what I'm getting into.
No, I like to keep her on her toes.
Yeah. I'll probably think of something like hours later, but as of right now, it seems like we've covered.
Well, you're good with video editing, so you can edit it.
True. Good point.
Back in.
We'll see. It depends when you want to publish it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, thank you. I'm really, really, really proud of her. She's a sweet, sweet girl. Her faith is strong and deep, and she loves others well, and she's gonna be great when she goes off. And I have some experience sending off a child, and I know now that the anticipation of it is the worst part. But you're gonna do great, and I'm just
you.
excited for you, and I'm
you.
glad I have been able to be part of these 17
Okay.
years.
Thank you.
I'll be part of the next ones too, but I'm gonna miss you.
I'm gonna miss you too.
Thank you.
You're
Love you.
welcome.
All right. Thank you for watching. I do hope to do more videos probably this summer while she's still
On
home and
here.
she can edit them for me. So
Yep.
so thank you. I'm also on Instagram if you want to follow there. I don't post very often, but I will try to do better. Part of my own mother culture there too. So
Yes.
thank you for watching, and blessings to
you.
you and your family.
Bye.